What a weekend we just experienced in sports. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Daily Intermission Podcast, Season 3, Episode 39. It's Greg, your host. I'm in studio. And I mean, what an unbelievable viewing weekend it was in the sports world. With the Waste Management starting on Thursday, with the Super Bowl obviously on Sunday. Some NHL action, the UFC fights were insane. It was just an unbelievable weekend to be a sports fan. Those ones you do not take for granted. Those are the ones, hopefully, you had some time to sit down on the couch and just enjoy what the sports world had to bring. But ladies and gentlemen, the pregame show is brought to you by Manscaped. Listen, this is the best tools for your family jewels worldwide, used by over 7 million men. I mean, it is unbelievable. Listen, it's Valentine's Day is tomorrow. I should say happy Valentine's Day, I guess today for the listeners. I don't know if I'm going to read the poem again, but you remember the poem from the last episode? Let's get into it. Roses are red, violets are blue. We love shaved balls, and so should you. Valentine's Day is coming, as it is tomorrow, and we've got the gift that will keep on giving. They want to make a petition to make February the 13th today, when I'm recording, National Shave Your Balls Day. Listen, over 7 million men use Manscaped worldwide. So go check it out. Use the code TDI at manscaped.com for 20% off free shipping. It's a tremendous product. Like I said, they've sent us the kits. The Lawnmower 4.0 it gets me, cleaned up, groomed up. It's unbelievable. So make sure you're going over to Manscaped and checking out. And honestly, if you haven't seen the John Daly commercial with the Manscaped, him and his son have one of the funniest ads in regard to Manscaped. So go check that out. But yeah, code TDI at manscaped.com, 20% off. All right. We've got a lot to get into. As I discussed earlier, it was a content machine. And obviously we're going to start things off in quarter one with the Super Bowl. What a game. Quarter two, we've got some NBA, NHL for you. Quarter three, a lot of golf talk. And then in quarter four, we're going to talk about the UFC fights, what went down, and what we've got to look forward to. But ladies and gentlemen, Super Bowl 57, Arizona, Chiefs, Eagles. It was incredible, man. Absolutely insane. And we kicked things off with Chris Stapleton and his long hair and his beard and his Fender guitar, and did an amazing anthem. I thought it was tremendous. Nick Sirianni's balling. It revved me up. I was ready to rock and roll. Then we go to the coin toss. The Chiefs win the toss with tails. As I said, tails never fails. And we're off and running. They defer, so the Eagles get the ball. And the Eagles look ready to rock. They drive the field. Things are moving and grooving. Hurts ends up punching it in. I know Kenneth Gainwell, he ran it in, but he was short on the one. So Hurts, as he did most of the game, got the yard that he needed. And 7-0. We're like, okay, the Eagles are certainly here to play. Let's see what the Chiefs have. They get the ball, boom, drive the whole field. Pacheco, huge run. Kelsey on a wheel route to cap it off, 7-7. Both offenses are here to play. I mean, this is what a way to start off. First possession, each team, touchdowns. And from the players you expected, you knew Hurts was going to be heavily involved with his legs, and Kelsey, just nearly unguardable. They do such a great job in that Chiefs offense of finding that guy and creating space for Travis Kelsey. It's just a lot of it is play calling. There was a rollout by Patrick Mahomes at one point during the game. It was a fake rollout. So everybody took a step to the rollout side and then reversed field. It was an unbelievable play. Some of the play calling by the Kansas City Chiefs offense was just phenomenal during that game. But 7-7 ball game. The Eagles get the ball back, and A.J. Brown burns two DBs on a corner route. It was almost a post-corner route. Beautifully thrown ball by Jalen Hurts. They go up 14-7. Chiefs get the ball back. They punt. The Eagles are driving again. You're like, okay, the Eagles have a stranglehold on this. They're moving the ball with ease, but Jalen Hurts fumbles. Middle linebacker Nick Bolton for the Kansas City Chiefs picks it up and takes it back to the house, a 14-14 game. And this was an early kind of turning point in the game. I mean, who knows? Obviously, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but who knows what this game looks like if Hurts doesn't fumble that ball. I honestly haven't played that footage back yet in regard to how he dropped that ball. It looked weird to me. But nevertheless, Nick Bolton takes it back, 14-14. Hurts. So one thing that was very evident during this game, and Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt, I must say, I thought they did a great job. And Greg Olsen made it very obvious and explained it in detail very well that on third down, you can normally tell if a team or an offensive coordinator or a head coach is going to be comfortable going on a fourth down due to the third down play call. So the Eagles were running a lot on third down and on 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 4, and that just was kind of reinforcing the fact that they were playing 4-down ball. And I mean, why would you not play 4-down ball with this offense? I mean, Jalen Hurts, a guy who squats 600 pounds as your quarterback, who is just an absolute freak. I know Brady's kind of renowned as the QB sneak king, but I mean, Jalen Hurts is certainly, he was a machine in that fourth and 1, 4th and short play calling. But anyway, in the 4th down, they get a big 4th down on this next drive. It's tied 14-14 at this time. They get it down to the end zone. He punches in another one for his second touchdown of the game, 21-14. Next drive for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes rolls his ankle, and he's in extreme pain on 3rd down. They ended up punting it away. And you're starting to think, I mean, is Patrick Mahomes all right? Is he going to come back? Obviously, he's going to come back. He's a tough dude, but and then obviously as they punt that ball away, Elliott goes down to make it 24-14 at the half. But what a half it was to start off the game. Eagles were dominant. They dominated in time of possession, and just even Jalen Hurts was just looking like an absolute machine. That rollout pass when he dodged Frank Clark and rolled out to his left and threw across his body, like that is an extremely hard throw. If you're a right-handed thrower, when you roll out to your right, it's much easier to throw. When you're rolling out to your left, think about this. It's very awkward. You have to get depth and run downhill, which you did fantastic. Got his shoulder around and found Zach Pascal for the first down. It was an unbelievable play. I mean, I was extremely impressed with Jalen Hurts this game. I don't think I gave him enough credit. And I think that, he definitely has an opportunity to be, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL if he continues on the trajectory and continues to build on the season that he had this year. But yeah, 24-14 and a half with the Mahomes ankle. Chiefs fans, they had to be worried. But then you had Rihanna come out. For me, one of the better halftime shows I think I've, from recent history for a few reasons. One, Rihanna has massive hits. Every song she played, everybody knew almost word for word. It was such a banger of a concert. And 2, the choreography was, I don't even know if I said that word correctly, but it was choreographed very well. And I didn't think it was over the top. Like you remember The Weeknd, which was just so obnoxious. It was choreographed just tremendously. And I thought that it wasn't over the top by any means. She's pregnant, so she had a big red suit on. She looks just phenomenal. I thought I thought the halftime show was almost perfect in regard to the choreography. I'm hoping that's a word. If not, you guys are just going to be beaking the wheels off me. And just the song list that she played. Obviously, Disturbia wasn't played at all. Had that as first song, but I know Jack Archer, Chalkboard Captain, was on Bitch Better Have My Money as the first song, and it certainly was. So yeah, Rihanna, I thought it was just an awesome halftime show. No guest appearances. When there was a few times throughout that concert when songs were revving up that I was like, oh, here we go. And there was at one point, I forgot what song she was singing, but she was walking towards the middle of the stage, and then there was like a band, and I was like, well, someone's coming here. Because she did, a lot of the songs that she did sing, I would say 4 or 5 of them, were songs where she featured in, where there were some big names with her. And I know Kanye probably wasn't going to make an appearance, but Jay-Z, potentially Eminem. I guess she didn't sing an Eminem song, but she does a lot of collabs. I thought it was really good. And I really have nothing bad to say. And obviously that's a bonus. I know a lot of people watch the Super Bowl, and that's like maybe the only football game they'll watch all year. But Rihanna was certainly a bonus to the game with the 24-14 halftime show. And then we move into the second half. And my question for you is, what do we think Patrick Mahomes took, or what do you think he injected at the halftime? Because he came out and he ran for a first down in that drive after the half, and he looked pretty good. They drive. Isaac Pacheco punches it in. It's 24-21, and we got ourselves a ball game. Eagles get the ball back. They drive. Jake Elliott kicks a field goal at 27-21. And this is kind of where things really start to shift in the Chiefs' direction. So the Chiefs drive again, and then this is the first time I think I've seen this play run. But they've got their two speedy wideouts in Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. And Kadarius Toney, he runs a fake jet sweep. So what a jet sweep is, for all the people who are maybe not as versed in football, it's when a wide receiver or a slot back comes across the field, either in front or behind of the quarterback, and they get like either a handoff or a pitch as they're flying across the field. It's a jet sweep. And so he faked the jet sweep, Kadarius Toney. So he starts sprinting in from the wide receiver position, and then just halts, and he runs kind of an out towards the end zone, catches the ball wide open. The defense just shifted as the jet sweep was happening, or the fake jet sweep was happening. Fake jet sweeps, don't get me wrong, they're implemented a lot in the NFL. It's just not oftentimes we see the guy faking the jet sweep stop and run a route on that same side of the field. So that was a tremendous play call. They go up 28-27. And then the Eagles get the ball back, 3-and-out, punt, and Kadarius Toney has a unbelievable punt return. He takes it down to the 5, and you're like, oh my goodness. Sky Moore on the other side of the field runs the exact same play, a fake jet sweep out. It's like unbelievable, wide open again, and it's 35-27 Chiefs. And that, you feel like, okay, the Chiefs are rolling. The Eagles, they haven't gotten things completely established like they did in the first half, but the Eagles go down and they drive the field, and Jalen Hurts puts the team on his back, punches in his third touchdown of the game. What do they do for the 2-point conversion to try to tie the game up? They run it with Jalen Hurts. Tie game 35-35. I think there's 5 minutes left in the clock. The Chiefs are getting the ball, and the Chiefs are driving. Now, this is when, obviously, it's controversy city. It is controversy city here because the Chiefs driving, it's third down, and Mahomes tries to throw a route to Juju Smith-Schuster. And defensive back, cornerback on the Eagles, James Bradbury, gets called for holding. Blew up. You're all familiar with this call, and it was obviously, it sucks because the outcome of the Super Bowl will be hindered by the fact that this call is in the court of public opinion. Do I think it was a hold? Yes. Do I think it was enough of a hold to be called in that situation of a game of that magnitude? No. So I think that's a difference. And I know it's a rule, and that's how the game's called, but I think that it should be called a little bit differently because it's the Super Bowl, and that might be just outrageous, and that certainly could be debated on. But we see it oftentimes in other sports, in the NBA and NHL, when the playoffs come around, they're just reffed a little bit differently because of the magnitude of these games. It's just unfortunate because obviously that gave them the first down. They took 2 knees, they ran down the clock, and Bucker. So what it did essentially was it made for an opportunity for the Eagles to go down and drive and win the game, or the Eagles to go down and kick a field goal and tie the game, to just wind down the clock in the last 2 minutes, and Bucker kicked the field goal with no time left. So it really took a lot of the dramatics out of the game, which is unfortunate. But as we know, Harrison Butker kicks the field goal as they wind the clock down after the penalty call, and they win 38-35. Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP in his first 5 years in the league. He's been to 5 straight AFC championships. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. I mean, what else can you say about Patrick Mahomes? He's an absolute freak, and he's close to being an all-time great, and he's 27 years old. It's just it's so unbelievable what this guy does week after week and season after season in the NFL. And Travis Kelce is second all time in receiving touchdowns in playoff history. It's really special to watch, and I've got a great appreciation for what they're doing right now. What a game! But yeah, it sucks that the ref had to throw the flag, and there's. It's not really something you could challenge because, Bradbury even said it in his interview. I grabbed his jersey, and it looked like at 2 different times during the route. It looked like right off the get-go, he kind of, there was a little bit of holding going on, and then as soon as he kind of took a step past Bradbury, he grabbed his hip and jersey. But like I said, in the rules of, in the guidelines of the rule book, I think it's a penalty. In the magnitude of the game, I don't think it's a penalty. And you can argue like those aren't 2 different things. I personally do think that the rules do change a little bit in the big games, because that inevitably decided the outcome, and really we lost a lot of dramatics due to the call. But all in all, it was an instant classic to me. Just an absolute beautiful football game. Tons of points, tons of great play. Jalen Hurts, what a tremendous game. Oh man, it was just it was phenomenal. Dallas Goedert had some great catches. The offense of the Eagles looked great, and so did the offense and the Chiefs, obviously. And both teams were incredible. And it sucks that we have to talk about the ref and the holding call on Bradbury, but all in all, the Chiefs are Super Bowl 57 champions, and now we look forward to the draft and the offseason and everything that comes with the NFL. And that's the best thing about the NFL is that we'll have a few weeks of downtime, but then we're gearing up for the draft, and then we're gearing up for free agent signings, and then we're gearing up for it moves quickly, and it doesn't seem like too long ago we're talking about week one, but I mean, I loved it, loved every minute of it, and will continue to be the biggest NFL fan going. I thought just the play calling on the Chiefs is just so tremendous, and obviously the talent of Patrick Mahomes is he's the guy to beat right now. So Chiefs win. Eagles fans, I'm sorry. I know Petrie's listening, and that guy is definitely having a breakdown today, but we're thinking about you, bud. All right, we're moving into quarter two, ladies and gentlemen. It's the NBA and NHL. I kind of packed these two in today together because I thought the golf deserved a full quarter today, and I thought the UFC deserved a full quarter today. So interesting news here. Obviously, I talked about it last episode with the trade deadline in the NBA and what Russell Westbrook finding a new home in Utah. It sounds like Utah is going to buy him out, which would make Russell Westbrook a free agent. And Paul George right now, came out to the media and said he'd be a great fit with the Clippers. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there with Russ. Obviously, it's just been a roller coaster for that guy. His name's been dragged through the mud heavily over the last few years, and he's just changed homes a ton. What's he been to? Russ has been to OKC. Did he go to Houston, Washington, LA, and now Utah? It's just been... The guy has just been a suitcase in the last few years. So we'll continue to monitor that front. Russell Westbrook, it sounds like he's going to be bought out by the Utah Jazz, and he will be finding a new home as a free agent. Zion Williamson. This guy has re-injured his hamstring. He'll be missing at least 3 more weeks. And I wanted to talk about Zion during the NBA because are we dealing with a case? I mean, I'm not sure if we label him a bust because in the games that he has played, he's been phenomenal. But he played 85 games in his first 2 seasons. He missed the entire 21-22 season. And then this year he's only played, I think, 26 games out of the 50-some that they've played. So he is an absolute band-aid. He can't stay healthy. His weight's an issue at times. But when he plays, he's a phenomenal. He's one of the better players in the league. It sucks for Zion Williamson. I just don't know where what will his career be remembered by if he can't get these injury issues taken care of. And I mean, I don't know, with a guy of that stature, and I do you think is this the type of guy that you might have to think it's okay, listen, let's get you down to like 220 pounds. Like, let's go through a full on diet, like mobility, makeover, because clearly his training regimen right now isn't beneficial. It's not working, because if you're missing, over half of your games during your 4-year career at this point, a full season, I don't think there's got to be something addressed. And it's been tough to watch at times, and it's tough to follow. But Zion Williamson out for the foreseeable future, which sucks because the Pelicans are a really strong team, and they're a fun team to watch. I thought they've made a lot of great moves. And with Zion in that lineup, they're one of the better teams in the West. But without him, still a good team, but they're not obviously as good as they could be. Scottie Pippen had an interesting interview this week. Came out and was talking about, obviously, the LeBron James, Michael Jordan chatter has been loud due to the fact that LeBron James passed Kareem last week to be the lead scorer. And Scottie Pippen said it's unfair to compare the two of them due to the fact that Michael was a pure scorer. And a lot of the things that LeBron's asked to do, Scottie Pippen played that role. And so it's interesting, he said as like a ball distributor, that was Pippen's role, and Jordan was more renowned for his scoring ability and his defending ability. And he said that he would take Michael Jordan over LeBron any day of the week, which there might be some bias in that opinion. Scottie Pippen obviously played with Michael and won 6 championships with Michael. But it was an interesting interview, and you should go check it out if you haven't listened. But obviously it's fun to listen to some of the greats that have played in the NBA talk about the comparisons of the two. I would rather listen to Scottie Pippen or like a Kyrie Irving, kind of hash it out. Maybe not Kyrie, but even like a Dwayne Wade and Scottie Pippen hash out the greatness of the two of them, rather than like Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, because these guys, had firsthand accounts on how they play, how they prepare, what it was like on the floor. And obviously everyone has the eye test, and everybody can make their own opinion, and that's all it will be and ever will be when we're talking about greatest of all time. Is just completely arbitrary. But it was definitely an interesting interview. So the NBA obviously is going to come down. It's going to wind down. We get the All-Star break this weekend, February 19th. So I'll preview that on Friday with the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, a lot of fun events in the NBA All-Star game. And then we'll have the draft that day. The game isn't as fun as the All-Star events are, but still looking forward to it. It's going to be a nice break for the NBA players. And then things obviously start to ramp up towards the playoffs. All right. Switching gears into the NHL, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Kane. He was verbally upset this week after the Vladimir Tarasenko trade to the New York Rangers. It sounded like Patrick Kane, that was, the Rangers were at the top of his list, and he holds all the cards. Obviously, he's got a no trade clause in Chicago, and if he is going to be moved, he will most likely have a lot of the power. If Chicago decides that 100% they're moving them, that Patrick Kane will have the power to say where, or at least a short list of teams to where. But he's available, and I mean, we all know what Showtime brings to the table. He's phenomenal, and he would be obviously a huge addition for any team looking to make the cup. And I think that I mean, I don't want to say Boston, but like Carolina might be a team, but is Carolina a market that he would go to? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Patrick Kane. And obviously these next 2 weeks in the NHL are going to be massive, because there's going to be a lot of moving parts, a lot of teams stacking up, because there's a lot of top end talent, a lot of top end teams in the NHL that have an opportunity to win the cup. And there's a lot of nice pieces available. Saturday night, it was interesting. As the UFC fights are going on, as the golf's concluding, Jacob Chikrin sat out. A lot of rumors starting to be, shifted around. Edmonton, Toronto, LA, Boston. Well, it came out a little bit later on that Edmonton and Toronto were definitely out on Jacob Chikrin. So that kind of sparked rumors about Boston and LA. And it's interesting. I mean, Jacob Chikrin, this guy's been available, it seems like, for a year and a half. And was this a tactic by the Arizona Coyotes to sit him out and to kind of bring in some other suitors to understand, okay, he's being close to being moved. If we're going to have a shot at this guy, we got to get in on it now. I'm not sure, because he was sat out Saturday, and here we are on Monday morning, and he still hasn't been moved. So it's going to be interesting to see where this guy goes. Obviously, he's an offensive guy. He's a shots on goal machine. He can bring a lot of offense from your decor. I didn't know. Obviously, Boston was kind of in that Saturday night rumor, and I didn't know if it made a ton of sense for Boston. Obviously, I know that Jim Montgomery loves his offensive defenseman, or he just loves his defenseman to be more offensive. I just didn't know. He seems like a Hampus Lindholm comparable. So we'll see what happens there with Jacob Chikrin. It sounds like that, obviously, if you followed the World Juniors, Brant Clark, number 5 for Team Canada, would be in that deal going back to Arizona, which would be a nice piece for Arizona. I think he's going to be a solid offensive defenseman as the years go on. So that'll be a name to keep note of. I would expect that he will be dealt in the next few days if they're holding him out already. I know they play tonight, Monday, so if he gets held out again tonight, I'm assuming in the next few days. If not today after I record, because that seems to be a popular trend, is after I record, players get moved. But Jacob Chikrin, we'll see what happens with him. The Los Angeles Kings have retired Dustin Brown's number 23. Dustin Brown, obviously a phenomenal player there for a long time. Two-time Stanley Cup champion. Was the captain there for a while. They ended up stripping it and giving it to Kopitar. I don't think he was that upset about it. But obviously, a great player. Definitely had some Olympic appearances for the United States. And so Dustin Brown's number 23 will be retired and was retired in Los Angeles. Another interesting name on the trade market right now that is making some serious moves is Erik Karlsson. He sits fourth in the league. He's certainly the Vezina frontrunner, and he's just having just a massive year in San Jose. But the issue with Erik Karlsson is that he makes $11.5 million per season. So the San Jose Sharks, we're all well aware, they're one of the worst teams in the NHL, and they plan to be bad for years to come. I would say that they're one of a few teams that are in the full on scrap this thing down to the bare bones and build it back up. They're really doing an old school rebuild, and that's why we could see guys like Timo Meier, a forward they have there, and Erik Karlsson be moved. But obviously the challenge is with the hard cap in the NHL, where could Erik Karlsson fit? Well, they're going to have to retain some money. Well, how much money? Well, so there's a lot of moving parts in regard to how or where Erik Karlsson will be able to move to. But it sounds like the Oilers are interested. And that obviously would be a massive addition for the Edmonton Oilers, but what would they have to give up? Could they make it a 3-team trade? Could they bring in another team to try to eat some cap? What does that look like? So obviously another name that we will be patiently waiting on to find a new home, if he does find a new home, is Erik Karlsson, because he will instantly make a difference for any NHL team. I did want to make note of Connor McDavid is about to hit the 100-point mark. He's got 97 points through 54 games. I think he has a 3-point game his next game, so I'll be on the over 1.5 or over 2.5 points or over 1.5 points in his next game. So Connor McDavid, obviously a name to look out for, or in his next game. It's just absolutely ridiculous. 100 points for 55 games. This guy is just unbelievable. I know I talk about it frequently on the podcast about how much I enjoy watching Connor McDavid, but he is certainly, if you don't watch him much, stay up late one night or just try to tune into an Edmonton Oilers game, because every shift he's out there, he just is just the most talented NHL player. Yeah, so we look forward to it. Obviously, trades will be happening. I'm assuming on Friday's episode, I'll have some more trade news, but the NHL obviously just picking back up after the All-Star break. Some teams just getting back after some big vacations. So this is it's crunch time in the NHL. There's no doubt about it. We've got just over a month and a half before the playoffs start. So it's crunch time. There's going to be some fun races. Not as fun as it could be with the 1-8 seeding, but it's going to be a content machine, the NHL and NBA. So let's gear up for the final stretches before the playoffs. That'll conclude quarter 2, and we are moving into quarter 3. Unbelievable week in golf. It felt at times like a major to me, and a lot of you listeners might think that that's obnoxious to say. It really felt like that at times to me. The waste management, the fans are electric, the 20,000 people on the 16th hole. It had a lot of buzz in Arizona. A lot of the NFL interviews that I was listening to, a lot of the NFL content, a lot of people talking about the Waste Management Open. A lot of the players talking about how the vibe is just so good there. TPC Scottsdale, just a phenomenal track. That course is just unreal. I loved the golf viewing. So obviously on Thursday we had the frost delay. It kind of delayed the spark of it, but Scottie Scheffler ends up winning. Obviously, he holds off Canadian Nick Taylor and Jon Rahm in the final round. He is just, when he gets going and he has a lead, he's a full-on closer. Like we've seen it. This is his 5th win in the last year, I guess, a full calendar year, because this was his first win last year to kickstart his run. He's just a machine. He's just got that even keel. He just is kind of a nice, goofy guy, and he is just lights out. And he said he didn't have his A game. Like he was blowing his driver a little bit, but his irons are just so phenomenal, and his putting, tremendous. It was a really fun, full week to watch. The names too that were on the leaderboard at times, Xander Schauffele, and you had Justin Thomas, and Justin Thomas had the big Sunday, but Jordan Spieth was around, Ricky Fowler, Jason Day was back in the mix. It was just a really fun week at the Waste Management, and we didn't have any aces, but I'm really proud of Nick Taylor. Obviously coming second, didn't get it done, finishes 2 strokes behind at 17 under, but he wins $2.1 million for the runner-up. His biggest payday on tour, and that'll accumulate a lot of points for that guy. And even Adam Hadwin on Saturday, he was on the first page of the leaderboard in the top 3 and played with Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler. So the 2 Canadians got to be paired with those 2 in the final 2 days, and they just both hung in there, especially Nick Taylor. What a tremendous pressure that would be, hanging in there with 2 of the best in the game. And it was just a fun viewing event this week. So congrats to Scotty Scheffler on winning his second straight Waste Management Open and returning to the world number one. Oh gosh, we have ourselves. I'm a little disappointed, by the way, because if you don't remember last podcast, or I guess it would have been a week ago, I was deciding between Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele. Went with Xander Schauffele. Didn't go my way. I went with Xander Schauffele instead of Scotty Scheffler, but we've got Scotty Scheffler for a tournament down the road, so that feels good. It feels like Scotty Scheffler is going to contend in a major, so it just depends on which one. Tiger Woods announced he is returning to golf for the first time since 2020. Obviously, he's played in the PNC Championship and he's played in the different matches, but we haven't seen him play in an actual PGA Tour tournament since 2020. So, or did he play last year in the majors? I don't think. Anyway, regardless, he's back and he's going to be playing at the Genesis Open, his tournament at Riviera Golf Club. It's another elevated event, so obviously we'll have all the big names coming back. We've got the Patrick Cantlays, Xander Schauffele's, Colin Morikawa's, Spieth, Thomas. I mean, you name it. All of the big guns are coming back, Rory, and it's going to be exciting. So we've got another elevated event this week. It's at Riviera Golf Course, and if you're unfamiliar with the Riviera Golf Course, I think you'll remember by the very weird, almost white, branchy trees. Number one is that it's one of the shortest par fives on tour. It's with a cart path that they all drive it near, and it's eagled all the time. It's one of the easiest par fives in the course. And then number 10 is the par four, drivable par four that they play the playoffs on. You remember Max Homa and Tony Finau were in a playoff last year at that event, and they played number 10. But anyway, it's just a phenomenal golf course. It's really fun. Some things to note that obviously there's the drivable par 4 10th, and then obviously the easiest par 5 at number 1, but there's 8 par 4s that are over 450 yards. Some things that we're looking at are bombers. Bombers obviously will have, an easier time attacking at these par 4s. It's not a go low event. I guess it would have been 2 years ago Homa and Finau won in the playoff because it was Joaquim Niemann. I don't love talking about the live guys, but last year went toe to toe, wire to wire last year, Joaquim Niemann at Riviera. But a lot of long par 4s, 8 of them over 450 yards. So we're looking at guys that have play either a long tee ball or very accurate or relatively accurate from that 200 yards to 175 yard distance. So I'm not giving out my picks anymore because it seems like my picks are always chalky, and they're chalk city on the Run Your Pool. So as I for the next few weeks try to take over that number 1 position in the pool, I'm going to refrain from giving out my pick. I know who I'm picking. I'm excited about this event. Obviously, the return of Tiger Woods. It's not Tiger, but we'll be following Tiger obviously religiously. But yeah, it's a very tough golf course. If you finish a tournament between 10 and 15 under, you'll win. That's how challenging it is. The cut is always over par. I think the cut was at even in 2015 and 2004. The rest has been over par. So obviously a very fun tournament coming this week. And again, the golf world the content does not end there. We've got the Netflix show starting this week, full swing. So we'll do a breakdown on that every episode. We'll talk about each episode. We'll talk about what the fun things were. So I highly recommend if you are a Netflix user, watch the full swing because I will be talking about it and breaking it down. All right, folks. Quarter 4, the last quarter of the episode, and we had UFC 284 in Perth, Australia. And I'll be fully transparent here. I was fairly banged up Saturday night, and I was watching this, and I was loving it. So I'll start off in the main card. Obviously, there's a lot of names and a lot of different fights, and they come at you fast when you're having a few pints on a Saturday night watching the UFC. It's late at night too, so Della Maddalena, Australian guy, fought Randy Brown, and this was the third final fight on the card, and it was a phenomenal fight. This Della Maddalena, he is a guy that I'm going to circle to watch more frequently because he was a machine. But he ends up kind of hitting Randy Brown with a left hook, drops him, ends up choking him out in the first round. Obviously, the crowd goes wild. He's from Perth, Australia, so he's the guy to watch. And then the co-main event, we had Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett fighting for the featherweight belt, which was vacant due to the fact that Alexander Volkanovski went up to lightweight to fight Islam, which we'll get into, was on the same card. So for the interim belt, Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett fought. what an interest he had. Obviously, this Josh Emmett guy is almost like a ball of, I don't even know, just a muscle ball almost. A bald guy with a beard who just has tremendous power. And Yair Rodriguez comes in, this skinny Mexican guy, and you're like, okay, it looks like Emmett would kick this guy's ass, but Yair comes in and chops him up. Absolutely chops him up, switching stances, ends up getting him in a triangle choke. So I'll try to explain this. So Yair was on his back, Emmett was on his feet. Yair took him in like a triangular motion with his legs and his arms and choked him. Anyway, he choked him out with his legs. It was a cool finish. I had never seen it. But Yair ends up beating Josh Emmett, wins the interim belt. And then we move on to the pound for pound, two best fighters in the UFC, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. And really, we haven't seen Islam been challenged through his fights. I mean, he just beat the wheels off Charles Oliveira to get the belt. And this guy, he looks unstoppable. Obviously, very close, almost a brother-like figure to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and that was butchered. And he was coached by Khabib's dad as well. So obviously, there's connections there with the Dagestan folks. But this was a great fight, man. And Volkanovski, man, this guy, when Islam takes guys down, it's not often they're getting back up. And there was that one round, I think it was the third second, where Islam did take down Volkanovski. It might have been the first, and he couldn't get back up. But for the rest of the fight, he got back up when they were a bit tired. Both of them extremely well conditioned. I mean, they had high pace the entire 5 rounds. Goes to a decision. Islam Makhachev wins the belt, holds the belt. But they might have to run it back because Volkanovski, it felt like he was right in that fight. It felt like he almost knocked him out in that final round. Or, if there was more rounds, it looked like it was kind of tilting towards Volkanovski. But I thought it was a tremendous fight. And if you're not a big UFC fan, I highly recommend you get into it. It is a very entertaining sport. These guys are just freak athletes. They train their nuts off. Like, they sacrifice things that you couldn't even imagine to get to this stage, and they go in and fight. It's just so entertaining to watch. I really enjoyed that card. But in 2 weeks' time, we've got John Jones, the renowned GOAT, brother of Chandler and Arthur Jones. Chandler obviously still in the NFL. Arthur, retired NFLer. Fighting Cyril Gane in the heavyweight bout. I mean, that's just going to be a tremendous match. So March 4th, we got John Jones versus Cyril Gane. And then obviously later on in March, we've got Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, their third fight for the belt. So it's just, Dana White does a great job at promoting fights and matching up just phenomenal matchups that people want to watch. And it's just been unbelievable. So it was a great weekend in Perth, Australia. The fans were great. You had... I forget the heavyweight's name from Australia, but doing shoeies and, just a lot of big names at the UFC event. And obviously this Cocaine Bear movie that they're coming out with. I mean, I don't know how much they paid, but they were advertised on every fight. I mean, well, anyway, unbelievable. But listen, folks, it was a phenomenal weekend. I appreciate you guys listening. Share it with a friend. Make sure you're on the social medias. Making sure you're liking and sharing, and leave a comment, leave a review. It's been my pleasure. So listen, everybody have a fantastic week. We've got another great week of sports coming. It's been a fun one. So listen, everybody enjoy your weeks. We'll catch you next time.